To celebrate the start of the season, we've teamed up with Sky Bet. Sky Bet understand the emotional roller coaster that's being a football fan. It will lift you up, break you down, and stitch you back together with hope. But we'll do it all again next week because for all the pain of a looming relegation or missed penalty, there's nothing quite like the absolute scenes of a last-minute winner. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet. 18 plus gambleaware.org.
Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown podcast. My name is Sam, and as always for my preview shows, I'm joined by Mr. Callum Davis. How are you, Callum?
Sam, yeah, much better than I expected to be at this point in the season. If I'm honest, it's not going too badly, is it? I'll take it.
No, in two ways. Lincoln City just outside the playoff places, and your seemingly favourite part of every preview show that we have nowadays.
Mate, I'm loving
the
it.
Predictions League. Now, I don't particularly want to talk about this, but I've been told I kind of have to by the lawmakers.
It's in the format. It is in the format of the programme.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say I won last Saturday, and I was pretty pleased with myself going into match day 4, thinking I've narrowed the gap down, and I got ruined Tuesday night. So I got a total of 15 points over the 2 match days, and then Mr. Callum Davis got 21. So there'll be a new graphic going out on our Twitter at League One Lowdown, as you can see at the bottom of your screen. So make sure you follow us on there to see how many correct scores and outcomes everyone's got over the course of the season. So Callum got 15, which now means he's got, what is that, a 22-point lead?
Yeah.
After 4 games.
Mate, that's like, what? Say you get an average of, what? That's basically like 2.5 match weeks at your current rate, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 match weeks at your current rate. Do you know what? I'll take it. I'll just put my feet up for this. I don't need to make predictions this week.
No, you could probably do no predictions for 2 weeks.
I'll just log off now, shall I? I don't need to do the rest of this podcast. Monologue it, Sam. I'm going.
Maybe I should just retire from prediction. I should have done that at the end of last season after I won. So maybe we'll have some sort of comeback again this season, but
you're gonna need it.
I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna have to get.
I don't even know what's behind it. I don't even know what's behind it. If I'm honest, it's not even vibes based. To be honest, it's just I guess it's currently it's momentum in it. I think that's what I go off. Really, more than anything at the minute is more momentum than anything. But
I'm gonna have to get the Imp store loaded. So if you're not following us on Twitter, please go and do. There'll be a giveaway within I think the next 2 weeks for Callum's loss last year. And then there'll probably be one for my loss at the end of this season. So make sure you're following on the old X page. But we've got a jam-packed show this week, so let's not waste any more time. We're going to review 4 games from Tuesday night and then go into our usual preview. So we've got Plymouth, Leyton, Orient, Port Vale, Stevenage, Stockport, Bradford, and Huddersfield, Doncaster to review. And then we go into our fan feature, and then we go into the previews. So we'll start off with Port Vale versus Stevenage, Callum. You watched the highlights for this game. Stevenage now the only side with a 100% record in League One, which I think has shocked about every League One fan so far.
Yeah, it doesn't reflect too well on my prediction, does it? I think I had them going down this season. And, I guess it's that more... I thought it could be kind of more of an evolution. A revolution this year. But it has been an evolution of Stevenage. They've not changed as much as maybe I expected them to. They have changed some elements in how they play. But for me, I guess the man of the match, and he probably wouldn't have been the man of the match up until the 88th minute. But Jamie Reid, who's kind of... I've always respected him, I guess, as a striker. But he's kind of coming into his element now, and it's one of them that kind of makes no sense, and it's kind of a growing philosophy in football at the minute, is that everyone gets hung up on the transfer window. No one really looks at what matters, which is the players in the squad. But even then, if you'd have asked me what players would improve most over the summer transfer window, over the summer, I wouldn't have necessarily said 31-year-old striker from Northern Ireland, Jamie Reid. Wouldn't have said that at all. But it in many ways, a vintage Stevenage performance. Okay, they went behind from Talaj, who again looks like a decent striker, but they stayed in the game. That's what matters, and they stayed in the game and they didn't go too far away. They didn't get too hung up on. They didn't let the gap get bigger. Is what I mean effectively, and they stay in the game. And when you're only 1-0 down, I think the saying is 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline in football. Well, that's clearly not true. But
1-0 is probably the most dangerous.
1-0 is probably statistically a lot more dangerous. But yeah, Jamie Reid. I mean, I can't really. I feel like we don't need to talk about the whole game. It's mainly him. So yeah, full credit to them and full credit to Stevenage. I mean, the start to that season has been remarkable. And when you look at that squad, you don't really look at you don't view it in the same light that you view I don't know, like a Huddersfield or even some of the other teams that aren't doing that well, like a Plymouth or a Reading. We I guess naively we kind of have a stigma attached to Stevenage. We have a stigma attached to a lot of teams, don't we? But kind of unfairly in Stevenage, and they've done very well. I'll just talk about Port Vale as well. I don't think there's too much to be worried about there. Stevenage are quite clearly a good side, maybe not relegated as I predicted them to be, and that's maybe a prediction that I got wrong this season. But fair play. I think Port Vale, based on that one, this should be all right this season, but you can't let that slip. Do you know what I mean? It will be. You can't let that happen too much. Port Vale, if you 1-0 up, it's the teams that hang on even at this early stage in the season that get over the line, and not hugely worrying for them. But 19th, only 2 points on the board. I would say that's worrying, but there are other teams that we'll talk about during this episode that I worry about a lot more that I didn't expect to.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that when you've got a long throw asset of somebody like Charlie Good as well, long throws have become extremely prevalent in modern day football. Jamie Reid's got Jamie Reid's got a bit more competition for his place this year with Ghassan Ahadme joining from Charlton with promotion winning pedigree, which helps massively. And they've still got Jake Young lying around, who I think by all accounts has been pretty disappointing since joining from Bradford City after a fruitful spell at Swindon Town. So moving on from one extreme to the other, one team that's won all 4 games and one team that's lost all 4 games. One of only 2 teams to have actually lost all 4 games is Plymouth Argyle. Now, Plymouth fans, I will give you a glimmer of hope. There was one, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was about 20 years ago. You lost all your opening 6 games and you went on to win promotion from the 3rd tier. You're at 4 right now. And to be honest, based on what I saw on Tuesday night, it doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon, quite frankly. Lethargic in possession. Defensively, you look okay. I think Alex Mitchell will shore up that defence. You kind of need Connor Hazard to come back from injury fairly quickly because Ashby Hammond's distribution is slow. It's really poor. He doesn't command his area very well. I felt sorry for Aseni up front on his own. He got no support at all. There's bright sparks with Amechi and Watts, but throughout the game, they kind of drifted in and out quite a lot. So it was very difficult for them to sort of build any sort of momentum in the game. So yeah, I was bitterly disappointed with Plymouth. Obviously, we all expected them to be really good. They've lost a lot of players, as it's well documented over the summer. They've lost Ryan Hardy, Jordan Houghton. There's a couple of others who have gone off my head. They've lost Bundu, Baidu as well. So there's a lot of sort of explosive type players, athletic players that they've lost. And Tom Cleverley's not really been backed, I don't think, as well as he would have hoped. And that was evident from the Plymouth fans at the other game, chanting at the board, where's all the money gone, in more fruitful terms than that. So there is a bit of unrest at Plymouth Argyle at the moment. And to be honest, I don't see where it's going to end, because we've obviously spoke about negative atmospheres at clubs a lot. And while they have overhauled their squad, there just seems to be a complete negative atmosphere, especially when they go behind. The players just seem a bit lost. There doesn't seem to be a plan B. It's worrying times for Plymouth, who obviously face Blackpool, which we'll get onto a bit later. But for Orient, I think their first. They've lost 10 of 12 visits previously to Plymouth, so it wasn't a happy hunting ground. It's a long way on a Tuesday night, so they'll be more than happy with the 3 points, giving them 2 wins and a draw from their opening 4. And if we look at that from last year, from their opening 4, they had 0. So it's a massive improvement. So yeah, I think for Orient, it's an excellent start considering they've played Stockport, Huddersfield, Plymouth, and someone else who I can't remember. So yeah,
but there's a smell of the Huddersfield town, isn't there, about them this season for Plymouth, and yeah, you only need to watch a certain streamer / YouTube vlogger and Plymouth Argyle fan to understand what some of the unrest is around there, and understandably so. I mean, obviously, football is passionate. Whether it's as dire as as Pieface makes it out to be, I don't know. I'm not a Plymouth Argyle fan. I don't know the club inside out, but I think the crux of the matter is, I think that the most frustrating thing for Plymouth Argyle is, and the kind of what I was hearing a lot of them say after the Lincoln game was, they've sold a lot of players. I mean, Morgan Whittaker, I think he was that £7 million. Apparently,
in January,
the phrase used is that it's the most profitable the club has ever been, at least in terms of maybe not day to day, but in terms of player sales. So why is that not invested into the club? I think is what a lot of people are confused about. So. Yeah, worrying signs for Plymouth Argyle, and we know football's difficult to make a profit in, but you don't go into football to make a profit, do you?
No, you go in to win. Yeah,
that's
100%.
what it's all about.
So moving on to your second game, it was Huddersfield versus Doncaster. And just before we do, I got a message from Jamie Johnson, who does the review shows, and he was at Huddersfield. And this is what he said on the game. This is from a Doncaster perspective, that they were the better team for 70 minutes. Lapse of concentration from a drop ball for the first. The second was a penalty, but he couldn't see from their end if it was definitely a penalty. It all fell to pieces when they made, they made a triple change. Nixon and Sharp, etc. Legs went. They missed too many good chances in the first half, and they were made to pay by the extra quality and depth that Huddersfield Town had on the bench.
I mean, yeah, that last sentence kind of sums it up. When you bring on Lasse Sorensen, Dion Charles, and Joe Taylor, really is the big names there. You kind of expect to get a result, and it's clicking for Huddersfield. I did find it quite funny. Obviously, we were talking in our little work chat about this game as it happened, and Jamie said Huddersfield were nothing special. But I don't think you need to be special necessarily to get the job done. And when you've got that squad depth, it just takes a couple of moments to really stand out. On the penalty, it's one of them that we say it's a free kick in every part of the pitch, and so then therefore it's a penalty. It was one of them that it probably is a free kick, but feels very harsh to give it as a penalty. And he has gone down quite easily. But at the end of the day, I always say, don't put yourself in that position. It happens so many times when penalties are given away. The defender doesn't need to put himself in that position. Okay, it's a threatening position, but you're less likely to score from that position than you are 15 yards from the goal penalty. So, do you know what I mean? 12 yards from the spot, whatever. It feels a bit harsh, but then also. It probably was a penalty on the balance of play, but I think what sums this game up is squad depth. We've said it about Huddersfield Town. I mentioned it there. The players that they brought on, that's really all that matters. And it was a very 50-50 game. The stats make it look like, but at the end of the day, when you've got those finishers that can come on, and they had the chances. Doncaster, they did have their chances. 12 shots in total. They had more shots than Huddersfield throughout the match. So had the chances, but just wasn't to be for Doncaster. I don't think they can go away from this too disappointed. I know Doncaster I think they were in the playoff spots, weren't they, prior to this match? But I don't think they can be too disappointed with their start to the season, 10th place, and only 5 points off Stevenage in first. I can't get over that.
Yeah, I think it was important for Huddersfield, wasn't it, to get back to winning ways immediately, or definitely not go back-to-back losses, especially after sort of the doom and gloom around the club over the past, 4 so years. So it was very, very, very important that they quickly got back to winning ways. And like you say, with the squad depth, like you're bringing on Dion Charles, Joe Taylor, Lass Sorensen, and Ben Wiles
Yeah,
on League One. That's just outrageous.
It's unfair, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
ever so slightly unfair.
So, yeah, a good win for Huddersfield and very important for them to bounce back. On to the final in-depth sort of preview before we quickly go review, is Stockport County versus Bradford City. Now, we've not been getting a lot of love from Bradford City fans.
And to be fair, understandably, though, given the start to their season.
So it's time to give you some love, Bradford City. I don't know whether to get up and give you a round of applause for how well you started the season. I mean, Stockport dominated, I think, by all accounts, the first half. They dominated territory, shall we say. But lapses in concentration, and Dave Challoner was very critical. We haven't worked out who it is. We're unsure if it's the linesman or Owen Moxon, because Moxon let the runner go for the cross to come into the box for the first goal. And he's slated, like he said, we've been done by the same person who cost us in the League One playoff semi-final. Yeah. Now, I can't work out if he's talking about the linesman with the offside or Moxon for not tracking a runner. I'm going with Moxon because it was literally a carbon copy of a free kick to what Orient scored in the semi-final last year.
Yeah.
So that's the second time he's gone for his players after Saturday's where they threw a 2-goal lead away. He said that they just wanted to play their own game in the second half. So it's another second half performance from Stockport that's incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
I think the big performance from me for Bradford was Sam Walker. One of the saves he made at the back post, I think, was really late on from Brecky Anderson, the county attacker at the back post. How he saved that with his really long and big frame, brilliant goalkeeping. So I think Bradford have gone very under the radar. And the players they've signed will use Max Power as a very good example. Someone who's experienced in the middle of the park, control the game, dictate the tempo. Josh Nerfer was an extremely explosive right wing back and is made purposely for that role. Ubu Toure is experienced at League One level and it's another good signing. So yeah, I think Bradford can be mightily impressed with their start to the season. Still unbeaten. So yeah, they're obviously using that momentum that they've built from last year. Graham Alexander's now an experienced head. We obviously didn't rate him too highly in our manager predictions, but he's proving, and Bradford, in fact, are proving everybody wrong and proving us four wrong, especially with how well they have started the season. Stephen Humphries is someone I really like up front as a focal point. He's big, he can hold the ball up. He's really good on the ball. He's pretty nifty as well for a big man. So he's kind of everything, like an all-round type striker. And when you've got someone like Will Swan to come off the bench, who's a bit more of a workhorse and a clever sort of striker, it balances out really well. And there's a really nice blend of the youth in sort of like Bobby Poynton with the experience of somebody like Curtis Tilt, Matthew Pennington and Sarcevic. So it's a really balanced squad. And they've had a very good start to the League One season.
Yeah. I just checked the officials for both legs of the playoff final, and they're not the same. So it must be the players.
Must be Moxon.
Which is interesting. I mean, the one thing I will say about Bradford, I'm not going to go too much into panic about Stockport County. Again, I think they've been all right this season. They've been well. They've got results against harder teams, I suppose. Well, what we perceived to be tougher teams at the start of the season. Whether that'll actually be the case come May, we'll see. But what I will say about Bradford is at least I said that it would be the home stadium. It would be the home form that got them across the line for safety. Turns out it's their away form that's making them go for promotion, beating Stockport County. So we'll see. Again, we saw in Mansfield Town how promoted sides can have a bit of form to start the season, and then we think, maybe we missed Mansfield last season and they might get playoffs, and now, then it was worrying times for them last season. So, we can't take too much away from just these 4 games. I'm not gonna brand Bradford City as playoff pushing just yet. Same as I won't say that for Lincoln City, my own side. I wouldn't. I'm kind of in denial that they might be in the realms of playoffs, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, fair play Bradford. I mean, you can't take away from that. They've had a better start to the season than the 19 teams below them or whatnot. So fair play to them.
Yeah, 100%. So moving on to our fan feature of the week, brought to you by Sky Bet. So this week is on manager sackings and the odds for the first League One manager this season to be sacked. Now, I did a poll last night. I'm just getting the poll up. So I tweeted out on the League One Lowdown Twitter page, who do you think the first manager is to be sacked? And if you think it's someone else, reply to tweet, because annoyingly, Elon won't give us more than 4 people in a poll. So out of the 385 of you that voted, so thank you everyone for getting involved, who do you think, Callum, was the highest percentage? And the 4 managers that I gave were Kevin Nolan, Steve Bruce, Mike Dodds, and Darren Ferguson.
My personal opinion is Darren Ferguson, but I think Mike Dodds is probably more maybe dare I say the more favourite, the fan favourite to be sacked first.
Yeah, so out of the 385 votes we got, Darren Ferguson got 38% of the vote.
Ooh.
Which is actually quite a lot. 34% was Mike Dodds.
Okay.
17% was Steve Bruce. People were a bit confused why I include Steve Bruce, but considering Blackpool have the worst defensive record in League One, which is when they've invested so heavily in their defence, is something that I was confused by. And then 11% have got Kevin Nolan to be sacked, which was, I thought, quite low, but I don't know if that's because there's no offence to Northampton Town. There is less Northampton Town fans
that follow us,
that follow us. So that one's a bit more tricky to understand. And then we got a couple of comments from Matt Hamshaw at Rotherham. There was a couple for that, which did surprise me. And then we had another one. We had Tom Cleverley appear a couple of times, and now I argued that was a bit unfair.
I think I saw something from Plymouth fans to say he's more likely to walk than be sacked, which wouldn't surprise me. Are we surprised that Darren Ferguson is the most likely? I think. I think. Is it his fault though? Is the reason that Peterborough are in that situation? Is that his doing? Would it be one of them unfair sackings? Is it more to do with the recruitment around that club? I think it's a difficult one to see who will go. Mike Dodds is again. I think it is between those two. But then again, when something looks so obvious, it normally is a bit of a left field shout. So I don't know. I personally think it's between those two. But it wouldn't surprise me if Mike Dodds goes first either.
Yeah.
I think it's very close.
Yeah, I do agree. And if you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments who you think the first manager departure will be. It can be sacked, it can be left, it can be whatever. And if we'll give you an extra brownie point if you can get the match day correct. I think
I'm interested to see how many survived the season.
Yeah,
I feel like that's an interesting one because I feel like a lot of clubs currently have got managers they look relatively stable with. I can only take our 2 clubs for example.
Yeah.
If you'd have asked me at the start of the season, I think it might have been very interesting to see what happened given all the talk around Lincoln. But Michael Skabala has proved himself, at least at the start of the season, in the opening couple of games, to be a very strong manager, even when he's not necessarily got the squad he wants. Richie Wellens, you can imagine him being at Orient for quite some time. A lot of these clubs have got very happy managers at the minute, but we are only on match week 4, so let's not count our chickens too quickly. But it wouldn't surprise me if Darren. I'm going to put my bets on Darren Ferguson. I think.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. I think the thing with Darren Ferguson is they were poor last year but won a trophy, and that trophy kind of glistened over the cracks that had happened in that team. I think it's fair to say. This year the league is not stronger. I wouldn't say we've got like a Birmingham and a Wrexham, but it's more competitive. I think it's
I would say the league is stronger as a whole. I think the league is stronger as a whole. As an average, I think the league is stronger, and I think that means that some people will get caught out.
Yeah,
and whether that is the shortfalls of a Darren Ferguson type manager who maybe I don't know what it is at Peterborough. I'm sure I'd love to get more Peterborough fans' opinions, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. When we're talking about the previews, but yeah, Mike Dodds, Darren Ferguson. I feel like it's very 50-50.
Yeah,
let us know.
Yeah, I think it'll be Mike Dodds. I just think with the way that Wycombe ended the season last year, terrible. Like, they were appalling in the playoffs. And Mike
Mm.
Dodds, I think I read somewhere that he picked up 23 points from a possible 65. So yeah, that's poor.
It's not ideal.
So yeah, let us know in the comment section who you believe will be the first League One manager to be sacked. So moving on to the preview part of the episode now. We've got 20 minutes for 12 games, Callum. Are you ready for a speed run?
I'm ready. Let's strap in.
Strap in and get the popcorn ready. So what we're going to do, Callum, you're going to go first for prediction. Luton versus Cardiff.
Luton versus Cardiff. I mean, statistically, probably, well, in terms of stature, two of the bigger clubs in the division. Luton have started relatively harmlessly, as have Cardiff, even better, with that draw instead of a defeat. As 1 point separates the two sides. I can't help but think, though, in this game, that home advantage is going to play the role. It's not the longest of trips, but it is obviously basically capital to capital, roughly speaking. I know Luton is not London, but it's capital.
It's called London Luton Airport, though. If you're going off that.
That's a debatable. Aviation fans in the comment. We've just lost half of the aviation fans that are subscribed to this podcast. Jesus.
To celebrate the start of the season, the League One Lowdown podcast has teamed up with Sky Bet to celebrate the world's wildest emotional rollercoaster, being a football fan. Sky Bet understand the beautiful chaos of being a football fan. It'll lift you up, break you down, and stitch you back together with hope. Because for all the pain of a looming relegation or a missed penalty, there's nothing quite like the absolute scenes of a last-minute winner that leaves you hugging people you've never met in your life. For me, I remember being relegated from the EFL, but I'd happily go through all that again to relive the last 7 years of 2 league titles. Being a fan isn't for everyone. Some people say it's just a game and question why we shout at the TV or stand in the pouring rain just to see our team lose 1-0. But those who get it, there's nothing quite like it. The highs and lows, the heartache and the glory. It's all part of the ride. And is it worth it? You bet it is. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet, 18+, begambleaware.org.
Luton have been impressive, though. To be fair, everything I say about Luton probably applies to Cardiff. They've both been impressive.
Yeah.
Probably Cardiff, we didn't expect it as much, though. But I'm gonna, it's home advantage. I'm gonna be a bit biased here. I'll go 2-1 Luton. Though it's one of those lunchtime kickoffs, in it, so it reeks of a 0-0.
It reeks of a 0-0.
Reeks of a 0-0.
I'm with you. I've been really impressed with Cardiff. I think for a squad that signed nobody, the emergence of some of these younger players is really, really appealing. I think for Brian Barry Murphy, obviously Ollie Tanner going off with a suspected broken leg isn't ideal, so we all wish him a speedy recovery. But in midfield, like, you've got the 2 Cole Wills, you've got Chris Willock, David Turnbull, Alex Robinson, Ryan Wintle. I mean, that's top end League One. It was just all about, it will come to a point in the season, though, when Cardiff lose 2 or 3, can they bounce back? Can they bounce back? When they get injuries, can they overcome this? Because the squad's not the biggest, but it has quality. So that will be the interesting part for Cardiff. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Cardiff have only conceded the 1 goal this season. Luton looked pretty solid defensively, but by all accounts were quite lucky in their midweek game, which they won in the middle of the week. So, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw for that one. Moving on to probably one of the most unappealing games of the weekend is Rotherham versus Wigan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rotherham and Wigan fans, but it just is. Rotherham, again, I don't think it comes to a surprise to me and you that they've only won 1 of their opening 3 games and have lost the opening 2. And for Wigan, they've had, I think it's safe to say, a topsy-turvy sort of start. Went smacking Northampton on the opening day and could have had 6 by all accounts. Fell apart against Orient in the second game. Then won their third game against Peterborough, convincingly 2-0. And then lost away at Luton, which is no mean feat. So they've lost 2 away games and not scored. And they've won both their home games. Well, they're travelling to the New York Stadium this time, not to be confused with the city, New York. It's in Rotherham. I'm a bit confuzzled with this one, I'm not going to lie. I think Wigan should win.
Yeah.
But there's just something about Rotherham that it's just the name, isn't it? Rotherham in League One. And they do have quality in their side.
Yeah. I think it makes them very difficult to predict, doesn't it? Rotherham.
Yeah, and there is quality in that Rotherham side. It's just can they click? Can they gel? Can Matt Hamshaw get the best out of people like Jordan Hugill, for example? He's played in the Premier. Well, he'd never actually made an appearance in the Premier League, but he was signed for a Premier League club.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for 2-1 to Wigan. I've backed Wigan quite heavily this year, so
I think there's two stats here that kind of, well, two elements to this that kind of have come up with my thinking. Rotherham have scored 4 goals in their last 5 matches, but haven't scored in their last 3. That's the big one. 3 games in a row where they've failed to score. And Wigan have scored 6 in their last 5. So it reeks of a 1-0 to Wigan for me. I'm not going to be very impressed with the quality of this game. So out of the 2 12:30 kickoffs, I know which one I'll be watching on my iPad. Doesn't reek of quality, but these games have to be played in League One, and let's be honest, these are the types of games as to why we love League One, because of the dare I say, the backyard nature of it. It's not going to be a pretty game. It's going to be, it's going to be dirty. It's not going to be pretty, but I'll go 1-0 to Wigan. And do you know what? I don't want to pull it out too soon, but I'm gonna wild card that.
Oh, you're wild carding the one. Okay, that isn't a very early wild card.
It's an early,
but you've done all right in your wild cards.
But yeah, I kind of just think it this more than any game currently reeks of a bad game.
Yeah. So moving on to Wimbledon versus Barnsley, I think 2 teams that have shocked both of us. To be fair, Wimbledon have been extremely competitive in every single game they've taken part in. They've added Patrick Bauer this week, an experienced German defender who's played at a higher level, which I think is a very good signing for the level. He can't really run, but the way Wimbledon defend, you don't need him to run, you need him to head it, basically. Head it and clear it. And to have 2 wins from your opening 4 games is a very good start, beating, obviously, Lincoln and, more impressively, away at Reading. I think that's a mightily good start to the season for a club who we all predicted that would really struggle, especially for goal scoring. And they've scored more goals than Reading, Peterborough, Port Vale, Wycombe, clubs that have spent and have bigger budgets than them. For Barnsley, we all laughed at Seb when he said they'll finish second. They're currently 3rd, undefeated, scored 8 goals, conceded 4. Davis Keillor-Dunn, one of the best players in League One. They've still got him. They've still got Luke O'Connell. They've still got Jonathan Russell. They've still got Adam Phillips. So everything's looking quite dandy for Barnsley at the moment. They've also created the most big chances in the league, along with Bradford and Cardiff. So yeah, it's a pretty good start to the season for Barnsley.
I'm not too familiar with the transfer rumours around Barnsley, but I am quite shocked that I know he only moved last season, but how Keillor-Dunn's not at least had sniffs from the Championship does interest me. AFC Wimbledon, the one thing that struck me, at least when Lincoln played them, was they were quite defensively resolute. They didn't look too weak at the back, at least in that game, which can only be a good thing. I mean, they've only conceded 3. Conceding less than a goal a game, which at the minute, is not much to go off, but is a decent ratio. It's just whether they can get that 1 goal to get ahead of Barnsley, and I can't see it happening. Personally, they've had that initial home boost, if that makes sense. I think that's what really pushed them on against Lincoln. It was their first home game back at this level. So I'm gonna verge towards Barnsley on this one. I go 2-1, I think.
Yeah, that's what I've gone for. I've also gone for 2-1 to Barnsley. I think a midfield runner will probably get a goal for Barnsley. If they're defending that deep, they'll just mistrack a runner. And moving on to your club, Lincoln City, who by all accounts have had a very good start to the season, and I think I've gone pretty under the radar with how well they've actually done, considering the squad that they do have. But losing Ethan Harahan, for example, one of the best home midfielders in the league. You haven't signed a striker until last week, the end of last week. But Rob Street, Freddie Draper, both really stepped up to the mark. You've got James Collins as well. So by all accounts, it's actually been a very solid start to the season for Lincoln. And the random stat for you is that they've actually had the most clearances per match this season with 45.
That was Sonny Bradley, and all of them were against Northampton.
But I think that Sonny Bradley signing and Riley Towler, they don't look on paper exciting. Like everyone's looking for that really exciting attacker, aren't they? And everyone forgets about defenders. Yes, you've conceded 4 goals, but when you've got Sonny Bradley and Riley Towler, the experience in that defence, it kind of helps, especially your younger players, step into the team.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got George Wickens in goal, who is a young goalkeeper, still learning his trade, that massively gives a goalkeeper more confidence, knowing that his defenders are unlikely to make drastic errors, because we know what Sonny Bradley and Riley Towler are like. And then obviously for Bolton, I tweeted out that how impressed I was with the 2 wingers of Bolton, Cozier, Dewberry and Soko, and they went and drew the game. So you're welcome, Bolton fans. You can blame me for not winning that. And they're kind of just stuck here forever, Bolton, aren't they? We always think, they're going to be really good. They've got a good manager, got excellent signings, and it's a pretty unenthusiastic start with 2 draws to Barnsley and Reading, and then a win against Plymouth. And everyone's beating Plymouth at the moment, and then they obviously lost to Stockport on the opening day. They seem to be getting into areas, do Bolton. I think it's fair to say they're creating chances. They're just not taking them. I think that's fair to say.
The last time you used that to describe a team was Orient last season, and then they went on that big run. You do just wonder what the missing ingredient is for Bolton. That's what confuses me. Like what is that missing ingredient? It's not overwhelmingly obvious for me. Is it a strike? Is it that clinical goal scorer? I don't know. In terms of Lincoln, I think I got caught up. I'll be honest. I need to own up here. What I said earlier in the season, earlier in this podcast, about people get hung up on what is said about the transfer window. And let's be honest, as much as we've criticised Lincoln City's recruitment this transfer window, and there have been criticisms of it, and there will continue to be criticisms of it, despite the current rumours about potential incomings and spottedness of flags within stadiums, which we will not dwell too much on. You have to look at the players within the club that have actually improved. One of the standout players this season in League One, not just for Lincoln City, has been George Wickens, who has been remarkable in goal. I know he's not kept the most clean sheets, but is it 2 clean sheets Lincoln have got so far this season? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. But, he's been remarkable. So, yeah, we'll see where it goes for Lincoln City. As for Bolton, the thing is, I can never get too excited of Lincoln going to Bolton, because it always just feels like a place they never get a result. I don't know what the stats are on that, but it just feels like a place where Lincoln don't get a result. So I'm going to predict a tough afternoon for Lincoln. I'm going to go with a 2-0 defeat for the Imps.
Okay.
I'm not too optimistic, and whether Rotherham will come back to bite us, we'll see.
Okay, I've gone for a 1-1 draw in that one. And moving on to 2 teams we've already discussed is Huddersfield Town versus Stevenage. 2 teams who have had excellent starts to the season. Stevenage, the only unbeaten side so far, but I have tipped them to lose their first game away at Huddersfield. I've gone for a 2-1 to Huddersfield.
It's one of them. It's no slight on Stevenage. I think I'm going to join you and predict them to lose, not because I think they're a bad side, just because I think Huddersfield are a better side overall, and I'll go 2-0 to the Terriers. Not a huge amount to add there because we've talked about them.
Yep. Moving on to Mansfield versus Leyton Orient. Obviously, we've discussed Orient in brief detail already, but they were discussed at the weekend when they played Stockport. Mansfield have won their last 2 games, which is a good stuff for them, considering they lost their first 2, and especially you, Callum, you obviously predicted to finish them bottom.
Yeah.
They've obviously got their big cup tie against Everton coming up, so players have something to play for. However, this is the game before they play Everton, and in my mind, sometimes there's 2 ways you can see it as a player. Number 1, I don't want to get injured because I want to play in that game. But number 2, I've got an opportunity to perform. But again, I don't want to be injured. So there's always, I don't want to be injured in the back of my mind, which is probably why I'm not a professional athlete, not just because I'm completely unfit and no good. But in that case, I've gone for a 3-1 to Orient, and then I've wild-carded that game. I've wild-carded my own team, which is probably a bad move.
Something that I think I'm going to be guilty of a lot this season, and I don't like the idea of wild-carding Lincoln a lot because I feel like it's a bit unfair. But But in terms of this game, Mansfield, can you go back to being bad, please? Because I predict you'd finish bottom, and I don't want to look like an absolute loser come May. I'm going to predict Orient to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if this ends as a 2-2 draw or 1-1 draw. I'm gonna predict Orient to slightly edge it 2-1. Have you seen their latest signing, Mansfield Town?
They just announced one.
Paul Dickov's son. It was a couple of weeks ago, actually. It was about last week. Max Dickov has joined, which I'm sure the commentators will absolutely love saying that name.
So, speaking of signings, there will most likely be a deadline day sort of a bonanza as we've done the past 2 years. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Northampton versus Exeter, two sides I don't really have too much to say on currently. Northampton, it's their third season in League One. This tends to happen with Northampton. They perform quite poorly. Exeter have had a mixed start again, 2 wins, 2 defeats, which for Exeter, we always say it, they're a fan-owned club. They're doing really well to even be in League One, especially nowadays with the amount of money that flies around football. They keep developing these younger players. They have a really good relationship with Brentford. They get some really good, like their Tristan Kramer 2 years ago. He's now playing in the Championship for Millwall. I think it's a difficult place for Exeter to go because I still always think Northampton have a chance at home, but having only scored 1 goal in their opening 4 games, and they could have had 3 or 4 against Lincoln the other night, but they couldn't hit a barn door, to be fair to them. I think they'll get another point, and I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
For Northampton, it's that final pass. They've got a decent striker in Ethan Wheatley. He's got quite high potential. Obviously, he's part of the United Academy, so you'd think he would be a decent finisher. It's just whether they can get the ball to him on a regular basis. So I don't think that's the issue. I'll kind of leave talking about Exeter because we're quite tight for time. But on them, I think they'll be all right this season. I don't worry too much about Exeter City, really. Maybe I should do. Maybe that's kind of my issue. But I'll predict a 1-1 draw here. I can't see it being too major. Not a season-defining game.
So 2 sides we've already spoken about is Peterborough United versus Bradford. Bradford are the second highest expected goals team at this early stage in the season, while Peterborough are the 3rd worst for expected goals conceded, only worsened by Plymouth and Blackpool, who surprisingly have the worst. I've gone for a 2-1 Bradford win.
Yeah, wouldn't have predicted this for at the start of the season, really, at all, I don't think. But, yeah, Bradford seem like the team to beat, really, in this game. And Peterborough are really in dire straits at the minute. I don't know where. Yeah, we talked about it in the fan episode, in the fan segment, but I worry about them. Really worry about Peterborough, and I think Bradford City will kind of expose all of that. I think, and I wouldn't. Yeah, 3-0. Why not?
3-0.
I wouldn't. I don't see where the goals come from for Peterborough, and I don't see where.
Yeah.
I don't see where they stop goals going in at the minute. Do you know? Let's dumb it down to the bare basics. They can't score, and they can't stop other teams from scoring. Yeah. So a team that's currently got as much confidence as Bradford, fully expect them to exploit it.
It's not something we'd ever thought we'd say about Peterborough, is it?
No, it isn't. But the issue is, we kind of thought they'd hollowed out at the end of last season. Yeah. They have hollowed out, but they've not
to this season.
They've hollowed out to this season, and the issue is, if you can't score and you can't defend, you are going to lose games. Whereas last season they couldn't defend and could score, so they at least won a few games.
That just reminds me of Michael Owen comment.
You know, I will dumb it down as much as I can this season for Peterborough and Peterborough fans to agree with me, and for Darren Ferguson to agree with me, because I'm sure he's listening to what I'm saying. At the end of the day, you can't defend and you can't score, so you're gonna lose football games. That's that top level analysis.
I thank Callum Owen for that comment. Moving on to Plymouth versus Blackpool. We've obviously discussed Plymouth. Blackpool, we would discuss a bit more, but we're a bit stricken for time. Blackpool have the worst XG conceded in the league. Plymouth are the second worst XG conceded in the league. So by all accounts, this should be a really high-scoring game.
Yeah, whether it will be or not, it probably won't be now that we've mentioned
No.
it. But Plymouth at home, normally that would be an advantage given the state of their fans and the opinion of their fans. It's probably not the advantage they want it to be. But Blackpool, again, this is the thing at the minute, that they're both conceding. Are they both scoring? To be fair, in elements, yeah. So it could be quite a high-scoring game, but I'm going to kind of expect it to not be. I'm going to reverse psychology this and go, this is going to upset people. 2-1 to Blackpool.
Okay, I've gone for a 1-1 draw in that one. Two teams we've already discussed. Port Vale versus Doncaster. Two teams that obviously got promoted together last season, so it's a really big game for Port Vale, especially at home. So just not lose, but they kind of need to win their home matches, especially against teams they got promoted with. I think Doncaster will win this 2-1.
I'm going to go the other way around. I'm going to go 2-1 Port Vale. I just think Doncaster, they've had won the first opening 2 games, and maybe we all thought we'd missed a trick here. But a draw, defeat last time, no harm in losing to Huddersfield, but it has kind of taken the sting out of their tail a little bit. So sorry, Jamie.
Moving on to Stockport County versus Burton. Now, obviously we've discussed Stockport County already. Burton went through in the cup in the middle of the week against Tranmere, obviously in that rearranged cup game, so they did not play a league game. I expect Stockport to bounce back. Let's put it that way. I've gone for 3-1 to County for this one.
Will there be an element of ruthlessness, or will there just be a desire to get the job done? I go 2-0 to Stockport. Burton, they've not been offensive this season. I think Burton will be all right, to be fair. Although interesting that Gary Bowyer's described winning a cup tie against Tranmere as a career highlight. I've just seen that article from BBC Sport. Is an interesting way to phrase a cup tie against Tranmere. They play Lincoln, don't they? In that, who won that game? So thank you, Tranmere, for not winning that one. It saved Lincoln fans that horrible trip to that longer distance.
And the final game, Wycombe Wanderers versus Reading. Now, Wycombe has spent a lot of money again. We can go on about it all the time. Mike Dodds, what are you doing? You don't know your best team. I personally think you leave your best winger on the bench, Junior Coturnia. You always bring him on, and then all of a sudden you look a potent side going forward. Daniel Udoh doesn't look like he can score a goal. You've got Bradley Fink, who you signed, I think it was from Basel. I mean, he's come from Basel. He can't be terrible. Chuck him in. He doesn't know his best team. I think it's difficult. He's playing Tyler Allen at left back, who was a left-sided centre-half for Walsall last year. So he's playing players all over the place. There's no cohesion in that squad. And I watched when Jack Grimmer scored that own goal. Normally, you'd have one of your centre-halves maybe, or I know he's the captain, but maybe you'd have a centre midfielder or Leahy or another senior player come over and pick him up. They all left him. Everyone. Just left him on the floor. And that's, to me, not a sign of a team and a club that is currently together. And for Reading, that is a club that I still think is currently together. And they got a good point, lucky point, but a point is a point against Bolton midweek. Now, this is a must-not-lose game for Wycombe, otherwise their fans could turn, and I feel it could get a bit nasty. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw.
I think I think Reading will probably concede at least once because they haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 games, which is a bit of an issue for them. I don't know. This should be... I'm surprised this isn't a 12:30 because when you look at the table last season, this should be a huge game. One side that narrowly missed out on playoffs, one side that didn't get through in the playoffs. This should be a huge game. But instead, it's 2 teams that already feel like are fighting to get the story of their season back on track. And I think it's probably going to be Reading that get it back on track. Dare I say I'm more positive about them managing to sort it out than I am Wycombe at this point. And I don't know. I'm gonna go 2-1 to Reading. Oh, Reading. I don't know. I'm really not confident about either of them, to be honest. I'm not confident about any of them winning this match, but I'm not. If both sides could lose this match, they would find a way to do so, which I feel like sums that game up. If I'm honest, so yeah, it's an interesting match week. I think this one.
Yeah.
No real standout matches, maybe other than Luton, Cardiff, and perhaps Wycombe, Reading, but a lot of teams that need to get the story of their season back on track, and by the very nature of it, a lot of them are going to fail to do so.
Yeah, and I think there'll be a vent next week from me about ticket pricing with football.
Oh,
I'm going to have
fun.
to vent. Yeah, it's been nearly a year, Callum, since I did my last event. I think it was the last international break. So I think it's around time that we have an event next week.
I'm surprised it's taken us to get to what that'll be match week 4, match week 6.
No venting. Yeah. So I think so if you want to hear me vent about ticket prices in football, tune in next week. But make sure you tune into Jamie and Seb's review show on Monday. And if you've enjoyed, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a like and follow us on your preferred podcasting platform. But thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks once again to our partners of this episode, Sky Bet. Sky Bet understand the beautiful chaos of being a football fan, the highs and lows, the heartache and the glory. It's all part of the ride, and we wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for everyone, for the fans. Sky Bet, 18+, gambleaware.org.